Well, welcome to Law Talk, my friends, sponsored by the Falvello Law firm. Remember, FalvelloLaw.com, 570-788-4191. Now, I want to ask you a question. You're driving along, everything's fine, and all of a sudden, bang, someone hits you. And it's not a good thing. You're in an accident. Now, hopefully, you're not injured. If you are, hopefully you'll get the proper care. But what happens after that? What happens after that accident? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Do you have the proper insurance? Very critical. We've discussed this on the show many times, but today Attorney Conrad Falvello is here to give us an education. It's interesting because you don't expect these things to happen, Connie, and then all of a sudden, boom, you know.
Nobody expects it. You know, and I've said over the years that I'm practicing 48 years now, and I haven't met anybody that would trade their health for money. But if you're hurt, what the law says is that's your only recourse if the accident wasn't your fault, and particularly if it was a very serious accident and a very serious injury that has long-term consequences on the victim. Such as lost wages and maybe even medical bills. So, you know, that's your only option in many cases, to take care of yourself, take care of your family. That's it.
Now, here's where the things come into play. Where are you properly insured? Okay, and that's when we're looking at. Tell me about auto insurance coverage. And my friends, if you have a policy, I highly recommend you review it after the show and look for the things that Connie's going to be telling you about. So let's talk about auto insurance.
Sure. Most of us get auto insurance because we're required to get it. The law says you cannot register your vehicle without really minimal coverages on auto insurance, and that's an important fact for this reason. I've seen a lot of my clients that come in after an accident, or their family member will come in, and I always ask them, bring your auto policy in so I can review it for you, so that we can tell them what they're entitled to right away as a result of the accident. And before I get to that, it's important to, when you talk to your insurance agent, what I see is people will say, well, I got full coverage. And they really don't know what full coverage is. In Pennsylvania, what's misinterpreted as, in my opinion anyway, as full coverage is what the law requires minimally to get your car registered. And that is $15,000 in liability coverage and $5,000 in what we call first-party medical coverage. And what that is the medical coverage is like medical insurance coverage on your car. If, Sam, you've heard of no fault?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the no fault part, because even if you're in an accident where you run off the road, skid on ice, and hit a pole or a tree or something like that and you're hurt, medical bills as a consequence of that accident are first paid by the medical coverage on your car insurance. That's by law, okay? So that has to be there. But that, in my opinion, is not really full coverage. There are other options. You can get higher limits of liability insurance to protect you and your family and your assets if you're in an accident that happens to be your fault. You can get higher medical coverage. You can take your medical coverage on your auto, if you choose, up to $1 million to cover catastrophic injuries, and they pay. You can get uninsured motorist coverage. You can get underinsured motorist coverage, and you can get wage coverage. Those that I just mentioned, the higher limits of liability, the higher limits for medical, the uninsured motorist coverage, the underinsured motorist coverage, and wage coverage, you don't have to buy those. They're not part of what our state here in Pennsylvania calls full or required coverage. But if you don't buy them, you could be exposed. You could be exposed. For example, let's take the example I just gave you, where an accident is just an accident. You slide on the ice, hit a pole, you're hurt. And you only have $5,000 in medical. Well, yes, your auto insurance will pay your medical bills up to $5,000. And by the way, the medical coverage on your car does not have copays or deductibles. By law, your doctor, the hospital, they have to accept as full payment what your auto insurance pays them. But I can tell you, Sam, $5,000 in medical bills can be gone in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
Okay, and after that, you're on your own. You're on your own health insurance if you have it, or if you don't, then that could be really devastating. But let's say you have up to $100,000 in medical coverage. Your auto carrier will pay any medical bill related to that accident, whether it's your fault or not, up to those limits of $100,000. But you don't get that automatically. You have to elect to get that coverage. So that's one thing you have to look at. Wage coverage the same way. You're not required to buy wage coverage, but you can. You can add that to your policy. And there again, the wage coverage is a no-fault component of your auto insurance. So again, my same example.
Is there a limit on the wage coverage?
You buy your own limits, okay?
see.
You can buy.
So if you're making $50,000 a year, you could buy, you figure you could buy $50,000 or $100,000
That's
wage
correct.
coverage. Okay.
Yeah. You can buy a limit that is appropriate for your job income,
Right.
okay?
Right.
If you will. If let's say you make, to use an easy number, $50,000 a year, and you want to say, okay, you know, I'd like to get coverage enough to pay me if I'm in an accident and get a serious injury for 2 years. Then, you know, do the math. You get $100,000 in wage coverage, okay? And that'll pay you, again, no fault, whether the accident's your fault or not your fault. It's so long as you're injured in a car accident. Pay the medical and the wages regardless of fault.
Okay.
Regardless of fault.
All right. So now, give me the norm. You know, because here again, you know, people sometimes are penny wise and dollar foolish. Okay, when they're looking at an insurance policy and they say, well, you know, I could save you this, or I could save you that, and everybody wants to save. But in the long run, you know, you purchase insurance that you hope you never use it. I mean, it's stupid, but that's the way
true.
it is. You know?
But it's the just in case.
Well, that's the thing. So what do you recommend for these people watching us with their insurance policies? What should they do?
The very first thing, Sam, I would recommend is do not opt or do not choose limited tort. Limited tort is an option that is less expensive, but if you choose limited tort, pay a lower premium, of course. If, let's say you ran into me and I had limited tort, and I had a whiplash, which is what they call a soft tissue injury. It's an injury to the muscles in your neck, and they can be fairly serious and persistent. But what the law says is if you're limited tort, if I'm limited tort, I cannot make a claim against you for my pain and suffering.
Even though I hit you?
Even though you hit me, I cannot make a claim against you for my pain and suffering, my physical pain and suffering, okay? Unless, what the law says, unless I have suffered a serious impairment of body function. It's a very subjective definition, and I can tell you without question that an insurance company For the at-fault party, if they see I'm limited tort, they're going to stall. They might even make you get into a lawsuit. And once you get into a lawsuit, their attorney is going to file a motion to try to prevent me from getting pain and suffering. Okay? Because, like I said, it's a very subjective definition, serious impairment of body function. Well, what is it? Okay? Scarring is an exception. You can sue for scarring under limited tort. Of course, if someone unfortunately should happen to be killed in an accident, you can sue for that for limited tort. But if it's something like I just explained, like a sprain of your neck, which can still be very painful and very persistent, you may not be able to recover for that. So the first thing, Sam, would be elect full tort. If you elect full tort, yes, you're going to pay a little more for the premium, but you're going to retain all of your rights under the law to make a claim for your injury.
Okay, so then it comes to the amount of these different things you're talking about, wages, law, and medical coverage. Where does that fit in the policy?
Well, when you're deciding on, let's say, medical coverage, because as I said a moment ago, our law here in Pennsylvania says that your doctor and the hospitals have to take whatever your auto insurance company pays them for an accident-related medical bill without a copay and without a deductible. So if you're comfortable with $5,000 and you have good health insurance beyond the $5,000, maybe you stay with the $5,000. But if you want to protect yourself in the event of a serious injury, I mean, my gosh, Sam, if you happen to be in the hospital even 5 days, your bill could be $50,000, okay? So then what do you do?
So there's where you have to look at what health insurance you have.
Yes.
Versus so if you don't have a good health insurance, you want to check that out. You should then increase your medical on your insurance.
Correct, because I would venture a guess that what you pay in additional premium for the additional medical coverage is probably less than what you're paying for health insurance, because the premium for auto is once a year. Your premium for health insurance generally is every month.
Yes.
So, yeah, you want to look at that.
Okay. Now, you should have full tort. There's no question about that. Now, here's a scenario. You have full tort, right? And I have, on my insurance, I have limited tort. I hit you and cause some serious damage to your car and also damage to you, all right? You're protected because you have full tort, okay? But I don't know. Now, let's assume you have limited tort and I have limited tort.
Right.
And I hit you and it's severe damage, okay, and health problems and concerns. There's where you run into the problem.
Well, so I have limited tort.
Yes.
Okay. The insurance, in terms of making a claim for personal injury, okay, really is not impacted at all, Sam, by the at-fault party's coverage on limited tort or full tort. Okay. What's important is what insurance on the liability coverage does the at-fault party have? Do they have the minimum of $15,000 or do they have more? So if I get hurt and it's your fault, my interest is how much insurance do you have on your liability coverage? What are the limits of that insurance?
So everything, the way I look at it, is the way you live, what you're used to living in, and the, what you're comfortable with. Before we go to break, I wanted to tell you there's a friend of mine who was was looking for help, and he had like 20-some people apply. When you applied, the job required a license. Of the 24 people that applied, maybe 23, 24, he said 18 of them did not have licenses. Okay, right. And so now here I don't have a license. If I don't have a license, God knows if I have insurance, and I get drunk one night and I slam into you and your family. Okay, I got some serious problems if I'm not covered myself.
Oh, yes, you are, but if you hit me, I may have serious problems if I don't have
That's
uninsured motorist coverage.
okay.
Okay?
So here's another thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So everything sometimes gets a little confusing. Okay. So now we're talking about people that look at their insurance policies and make sure they get full tort. All right.
Right.
All right. So now I may need help with that. Okay. I may need help. I have an idea, but I may need help. Are you available to help me?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody wants to talk to us about what kind of insurance they should buy,
Yeah.
yeah, our door is always open for that. We're happy to make that consultation for free or on the phone, in person, however they want to do that.
All right, so my friends, I'm talking to attorney Conrad Falvello. They sponsored this show, Law Talk, 788-419-1570, falvellolaw.com. Now, what happens if you are in a motor vehicle accident? What do you do? And what are some of the important things that you should keep in mind? Very important information, my friends. I hope you never need it. But if you do, you want to make sure you're covered. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Law Talk, my friends, sponsored by the Falvello Law Firm. Remember 570-788-4191 and falvellolaw.com. 24/7, you can watch all of our shows, including our Law Talk show, and you can see it anywhere in the world on a YouTube channel. We're talking about insurance, auto insurance, very, very important. I hope you never have to use it. But unfortunately, some things happen in life we don't plan. Talking about, okay, bingo, what do I do now if I'm in a motor vehicle accident?
Well, Sam, if I may, I'd like to go back to that question you had just before the break, and that was a question where I'm hurt in an accident and I'm hit by you, and you don't have auto insurance.
Right.
Liability coverage.
Right.
Any insurance on your auto at all.
Nothing.
At the time of the accident.
Right.
That's an excellent question. And it's an excellent question, Sam, because unfortunately, we see that too many times.
Yes.
And here's why. What we have seen is people will present evidence of insurance when they register their vehicle. And if they're paying their policy, their auto policy on a monthly basis, they'll continue to pay it for maybe a month or two, and then they let it lapse. Okay? The implication there, Sam, is that, you know, there are people out there, unfortunately, who think they don't need insurance or they don't care if they have insurance, but they need a car. So they'll pay for insurance for a month or two just so they can get their car registered, then they let it lapse, and your situation or the scenario you gave me, somebody may unfortunately have a few drinks and they go out and cause
Sure.
an accident.
Yeah.
That means you're uninsured. I could be very seriously hurt. I could be out of work for months. I could have permanent residuals from my injuries that will be an impairment, whether it's my legs or my back or whatever, and you have no insurance. What do I do? What do I do? Right back to looking at your own policy. I'm going to look at my own policy. What coverage do I have that protects me in this scenario? In this scenario, it would be what we call uninsured motorist coverage. Uninsured motorist coverage is available to anybody who has a car and has car insurance to protect the individual and their family from this situation. But the law doesn't require that you buy it. The law requires that you elect to buy it or not buy it. And unfortunately, we've had people come to us where we say, okay, you know, the other guy didn't have any insurance. I look at their policy, I get the documents that they signed when they got the policy, and if we confirm that they did not elect to purchase uninsured motorist coverage, My answer to them is, unfortunately, there's not much we can do for you.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Because there's almost, in those situations, there's almost no chance of a financial recovery or financial
That could be
compensation
life-changing.
to the injured person.
Yeah, that could definitely be life-changing.
If you have that coverage.
Yeah, yeah. So here again, it's so important. What happens if I'm in an accident? What should I be doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd like to just give you the other scenario on this uninsured motorist because
Sure.
it's important. If you have uninsured motorist coverage, then what happens is your own insurance company who's providing that coverage essentially becomes the insurance company for the person that hit you. That's de facto or by fact, because you bought that coverage says, okay, my insurance company, you're going to protect me and my family in the event that I'm hit and seriously injured by somebody that has no insurance. So I buy that coverage for me. I buy that coverage for my family in case that happens. Then you make a claim against your own insurance company, all right? And people say, oh, my premiums will go up. No, they won't. Not for that, because you've already paid your premium for that. You already paid for that coverage. You have that coverage. And there are some interesting pieces, if you will, to how you buy uninsured motorist coverage. For example, let's say you buy your liability coverage on your car, and you say, I need $500,000 of liability coverage. I have a house, I have, whatever, bank accounts. I want to protect them if I'm at fault and I seriously injure somebody. You can buy $500,000 of uninsured motorist coverage for yourself and your family. But if you want less, you have to sign a paper that says you want less, okay? Let's say you have 3 cars in your household. Yourself, your spouse, maybe one of your children. All 3 cars are on the same policy. You can buy what we call stacked uninsured motorist coverage. Stacked uninsured motorist coverage means if you have $500,000 of liability and $500,000 of uninsured motorist coverage, and you elect stacking, and you have 3 cars, if I'm hit and injured by an uninsured motorist and I'm seriously hurt, my uninsured motorist coverage then becomes $1.5 million because you stack the 3 cars' coverages.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So those are little, I wouldn't say they're nuances, they're important things to know.
The average person, I think,
Yeah,
understands.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
no, yeah.
it's not something you read and insurance adjusters, or not adjusters, but insurance agents can explain that.
That's where that's where I'm going to ask you. Well, you need to go to a trusted person insurance agency, okay? I mean, and that's so important. Just like you've been in practicing law 48 years?
48 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you know and you've learned, is invaluable. I think it's so important to understand who you're buying your insurance from. Don't be fooled by the gimmicks that you see on television. Just go to a qualified person.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sam. I mean, I would be, I know you can buy insurance online, but I would be reluctant to, because I'm not sure you get the explanation of the coverages that you need to have in order to make an informed and protective decision on coverages.
All right, very quickly, Connie, something happens. We've got 2 minutes left. Something happens, what do I do if I'm in an accident?
The first thing you would do is take care of yourself. I mean, that's vitally important. We see that all the time. I mean, sure, you can call a lawyer right after the accident if you want, but if you're hurt, to me, the most important thing that you need to do for yourself and your family is get the care you need. Get that taken care of, get it assessed. If you have to go to an emergency room, if you have to be admitted to the hospital, in my opinion, that comes first. Usually at the same time, take care of your car. either your adjuster, notify your insurance company of the accident, find out what kind of coverage you have on the car. Do you have collision coverage or no collision coverage? And then if the accident was not your fault, then give us a call. Find out what your rights are, what you can do. Even if you're in the hospital, we're willing to talk to you. We can even come visit you.
Take pictures?
Absolutely.
Everybody has cell phones.
Yeah.
Take as many pictures as you can so we can see.
Particularly of the car,
Yeah.
your car, and the other car if you can do it. And if you have injuries that are visible, such as a lot of bruising, scarring, cuts, yes. And the reason that we suggest that is because a cut, scar, bruise, 2-3 months down the road, it's going to be gone. You won't be able to see it again. So you want to record it.
There is so much to know about insurance, auto insurance. Attorney Conrad Falvello, 48 years in law. I think he knows a little bit about it. 788-4191. That's 570-788-4191. There's so much to know, so they can call your office, say, look, I'm reviewing this. There's some of the things I have, and you'll be more than happy to help them.
Be happy to do it.
Okay. FalvelloLaw.com. You get all the information that you need about the law firm. They sponsored this show to bring you this information. My friends, please, do not hesitate. Look at your insurance policy. And I hope you never have to use it. But if you do, you're going to be protected, and you'll protect your family, exactly what Attorney Falvello said. But he's there to help you, and so is Alexis. Just give him a call, 570, easy number, 788-4191. We'll see you next time.